We have a modest budget. We have a core operating budget of about $2.5 million. We have reserves that we use for various projects, about $1.5 million. And then we have about another close to $1 million well, it's a little bit more if you count the 3-year grant, but we have a little bit more than $1.5 million, I would say, in grants that we work on. And like most small towns, in our staff, we have limited energy expertise.
So, as Mayor Tabori's outlined, you could easily picture oneself in a town of this size in tens of thousands of locations across the United States, which is why we're excited about the prospect of building a model that can work here. I just want to tee off that last point that the Mayor raised about limited energy expertise within the town staff, because going back to the assumptions page and continuing, assumption number 3 really looks at the residents of University Park, and I would say in that regard we're pretty atypical in terms of education and energy expertise. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
It's an exceptionally well-educated community. We're right next to a university, University of Maryland, College Park, which is, of course, the flagship university for the Maryland system. And a number of the residents of our town are professors there. We have a number of individuals who work for the federal government and commute in. Because of the school that we have in our community, we draw a pretty interesting group of individuals, a very highly regarded elementary school. So there's some real specialized resources that we can draw on, which makes us a little bit atypical in that sense. We have an advisory group which has people who are internationally known in their field, in the climate field, and we have we have at least one physicist who's the head of the American Physics Society. So we're talking about some fairly talented people at some levels too.
And somehow I managed to squeak my way onto that committee as well, which is great, because when we put the proposal together, we wanted to make sure that these assumptions, to the best of our ability, held. So we did a quick straw poll through SurveyMonkey to find out if University Park residents would be interested in improving their energy efficiency. And what we got back was confirmation that the town is really motivated to make these changes. So, the assumptions 1 through 3, we really wanted to validate. And then assumption 4 was almost an anecdotal assumption that we believed, based on the housing stock here, typically the houses were built from the 30s to the 50s, it's all single residential, that it was ripe for efficiency programs. And I mean, just speaking personally, I live in a drafty old house, and folks said, yeah, I think if we're going to do a program here, we're going to be able to get some savings.
And also by serendipity, we had just recently been designated a historic district. It's a national designation. And so we had a complete inventory of housing stock. We have 7 wards. Those are political entities. And 5 of those were designated historically, and we're currently undergoing designation for the rest of the town. And so we now have in hand a complete inventory of all of the homes, and we very quickly recognized, at least at Town Hall we did, that is an assumption that is at least worth testing.
Assumption number 5 now starts to get into working towards the strengths of a small community and social marketing. And in the energy field, there have been numerous studies and case studies of towns really succeeding in social marketing. So say diverging from the typical broadcast marketing where you would put out information to maybe all of the people in a utility area or across an entire state. So instead of a top-down marketing approach, it's really using the social networks and tools that are available to a small community. And so as we switch slides here, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the social marketing that we've deployed here in University Park as part of the Step Up program. And I recognize as well that other topics in this very series have looked at the social marketing topic in more detail. So the first cluster at the top may be typical outreach and marketing channels. So the town has a newsletter that everybody gets. We sent out a postcard to everybody in town with information about the program and the launch. There is a listserv that covers, do you know what percentage of town residents?
We believe it's about 30% at this point in time, maybe a little bit more.
So a third of the town is active on a listserv, and obviously the town has its website. And so if you exclude the design costs and just talked about the production of the postcard and the newsletter inserts, etc., we promoted the program for roughly $1,000, perhaps a little bit less. The points clustered on the bottom of the slide are a little bit less typical, and we'll talk about those in greater detail later. A flagship of the program is what we're calling an energy coach, and we'll detail that role in the subsequent slides. But this is somebody who is going to interact directly with the residents of University Park about the program and is really seen as their neutral advocate and champion. Obviously, we're going to rely a lot on sort of neighbor-to-neighbor interactions and all of the existing social clubs within University Park. And why we think it's important to stress the success of social marketing in small communities is that we are asking homeowners here to make a very complicated transaction that involves technical decisions about things which they may not be familiar. It involves a financial commitment on their part. It involves trusting contractors who are in their homes. And so the social marketing strength is that it's all about who you trust. And obviously in a close, small community such as University Park, that is a huge point of leverage for us. And consequently, a real function of why we chose to not just saturate UP with lots and lots of leaflets, but rather work through those existing channels and clubs for the social marketing.
I just might add that on a neighbor-to-neighbor and the UP social club, when I run for office, and we have 2-year terms for our offices, so we run rather frequently, and we're constantly in contact with our neighbors. Over the years, I've gotten to know probably 50% of the residents of the town in some capacity or the other. In addition, there are these remarkably strong social clubs that are in town, including a women's club, which just passed its 70th year of existence this past Sunday, as a matter of fact. Well, I guess technically this past Monday. We have a PTA, which is one of the strongest PTAs in the entire county, in the entire D.C. area. We have a civic association, which is very, very active. And they interact with each other, and they create this dense community of communication, if you will, a set of channels which information flows quickly and effectively through, and relatively accurately.
And I think most importantly, from one trusted source to another. And,
yep.
And the ability to say, hey, I'm having this done in my house, you really ought to consider it as well,
right.
Is proving really effective. This is really the cornerstone assumption, which is that individual facilitation was going to be the key in a small community. And my hunch is that this actually may be true regardless of the size of the community. But particularly for us, we put a lot of the project emphasis on hiring what we're calling the energy coach. So there have been other, and there are other projects within the Better Buildings program suite that are also focusing on individual outreach. And the models vary. I mean, in some cases, the outreach is being done through a network of trained contractors. In other communities, it is interns or youth who are being trained and sort of sent out into neighborhoods, sort of boots on the ground. We believe that the idea of getting a comprehensive energy audit as a first step to a comprehensive retrofit in one's home is a premium decision. This is a decision that, as I mentioned earlier, involves a lot of different facets which are complex and costly. And so we really put a premium on hiring an energy coach who had the right mix of skills, maturity, experience, that they themselves, just by who they are, were a sort of a manifestation of a trusted source, that they were going to be able to deliver information to the homeowners that they could trust. And so we have a terrific energy coach by the name of Suzanne, and she is active in all three of these areas that we're trying to engage the community with, both the outreach and the events. When it comes time to help people with the audit, she both helps them to sort through the masses of information out there and quickly tune into the things that are really the key decision drivers for them, helps them to identify issues with which contractor they ought to get in to do the audit and what to expect in terms of the quality of that product. And there are various state incentives through the Maryland Energy Administration, utility incentives through, we're in the PEPCO territory that we have crafted this program around. It can be quite confusing, and there are a number of websites that people need to get information from. Suzanne's really there to help steer the University Park homeowners through each one of those channels.